And we are back for another episode of Pack Sports Zone. I'm your host, Peter Pac-Man Clark, aka the Sports God. And before we got a lot of things to talk about. As we'll be talking, obviously, some basketball. We'll be talking some football, obviously, and a little bit of baseball. Let's wrap it up with the Yankees. So before we get to all the other stuff, let's wrap it up with the end of the New York Yankees season as they went down in a pile of you-know-what against the Houston Astros. As I thought I would have been coming on today's episode talking about maybe a 2-1 series, not 2-1, but a 2-2 series or a 3-2 series and somebody trying to wrap it up. But this one ended fast as the Houston Astros swept the New York Yankees 4-0. They completely dominated in every part of the game, every facet of the game that you can think of. The Yankees just got completely terrorized in this series. Listen, in my opinion, you can't let this go on. You got to replace Boone. You got to replace Cashman. You got to find something different because we talked about it when it was 5 years. We talked about when it was 10 years. And now we're approaching 15 years since the New York Yankees have been to a World Series. Not even saying they won, but even been to a World Series. And they have completely, over the past few years, been dominated by the Houston Astros. And the Astros are not a team that spends as much as the LA Dodgers. And they're not as much that spends a team like the Red Sox used to. They just can't beat them. And it's because they're not getting smart players. They're not getting pitching. And even though the Astros, they have the one main guy that everybody talks about in Verlander, overall, their team is a good pitching team. The Yankees have all these home run hitters and they strike out all the time. They either hit home runs or strike out. And I was telling you guys before the playoffs, I told you specifically about the New York Yankees and about the Atlanta Braves. I said there are two teams that hit a bunch of home runs, but they strike out a lot. And I said that doesn't work in the playoffs. You need at least three, if not four contact hitters in your lineup. And with all the injuries to some of the players in the Yankees lineup, whether it's been DJ Matthew, Aaron Hicks, who isn't a bad contact hitter, they just weren't able to put it together. And they need one player that I've definitely pointed out as somebody who has been horrible all year and horrible in the postseason is Donaldson. Donaldson is a guy, he strikes out a lot. He only hit, I think, 15 home runs this year. If you compare him to somebody like a Rizzo also didn't hit well, hitting 220 this year, but he hit 30 home runs. He actually made contact most of the time. In today's day, you kind of got to look at it a little bit differently than the past. You're not going to see the Tony Gwynn's where they're going to strike out like less than 50 times in a year. You pretty much got to say if they can keep it under a strikeout a game. So if you're playing 130, 140 games, let's say you strike out 100 times. That's actually good for today's standards in terms of strikeouts. A lot of guys, they'll strike out at least one time a game, if not more. And those are the guys that really hurt your lineup when it comes to the postseason. You can have those guys around, but you better have them surrounded by a bunch of people that get on base. The Yankees don't have that right now. So first thing they have to do in this offseason, first thing they should have done is actually replace Boone and Cashman, which it looks like they're going to keep them both. So that crosses that one off that they can't do already. The second thing is the big thing, obviously, re-sign Aaron Judge. Listen, earlier in the year, I said, try to give him like a 7-year deal. I think his team wants a 10-year deal. At this point, he bet on himself and he pretty much won. You gotta give him whatever he wants. So if he wants a 10-year deal, you're gonna have to give him a 10-year deal and pay him until he's 40 years old. Just because, like I said, you always take that chance that if you don't re-sign a player, then if he does bad, you get him cheaper than you think. If he does well, you're screwed. And right now the Yankees are screwed in terms of they have to pay Judge because they can't let Judge go to a team like the Mets, which I don't think he'll go there anyway, but a team like the Mets or a team like the Dodgers or one of those. They can't let him go to another team. They have to re-sign him. They can't let that guy go after almost winning a Triple Crown and breaking the AL record for home runs. But the most thing they have to do is they have to get pitching in there. You got Garrett Cole in there, who I personally like as a 1B, even though at times he pitches like a 1A. He has the talent of a 1A, but I just don't know if he has the mentality of a 1A. He's more of like a 1B guy. but it's very hard to get an ace anyway. So unless you're going to go out and try to get a DeGrom, and I don't think that's going to happen, he's going to be the 1A. But you need to go out and get another guy that's really good to start game 2. So Severino could pitch game 3, Nestor Cortez could pitch game 4. So you really only need one good starter, but you have to pick up this bullpen. You have to get a closer, and then you have to get at least one more guy to go with Clay Holmes. Listen, Chapman needs to be gone. Chapman's done. So even if you're going to count Clay Holmes as a big-time late-inning pitcher, you still have to get a closer because Clay Holmes is not a dependable closer. So you need to get a dependable closer, and you need to get another guy to pitch in the 7th, 8th inning that you can have your 7th, 8th, 9th inning with Holmes, with the pitcher you pick up, and with a closer. You got to be able to solidify that down. If you don't solidify that, you're always going to have trouble in today's type of MLB because it's all about locking down that 7th, 8th, 9th inning guys. Most starting pitchers, especially in the playoffs, where you have a lot of guys that take pitches, you try to force the pitch count up. So whereas in the 90s and 100s, and even though Garrett Cole Shunoff came out with 94 pitches in his last game, pitchers don't go much more than 90 to 100 pitches now, so that's usually about 6 innings. If you go 6 innings, you need somebody to lock down that 7th, 8th, 9th. So during this offseason, the main priority for the Yankees, 1, re-sign Judge, 2, go and get a closer, 3, go and get another starting pitcher, and 4, go and get another reliever. They got 4 priorities they have to pick up during the offseason. And if they're able to do that, then we can come back and see what happens. But as for right now, they need a lot of things, and the home runs are good enough to get, I always said, the home runs can get you through a regular season. They're not going to get you through a playoffs. You face too many good pitchers and too many specialists to face you in certain situations. And you got to be able to manufacture runs. You got to be able to get 2-3 hits. And one thing I'll give credit to the Phillies for what they've done this off season. You'll see their big players. They're laying down bunts. They're hitting the ball the other way. You can't shift on them because they're trying to just get on base. They don't care about hitting a home run. And that's how you win the postseason. You don't care about just hitting home runs. You put the ball in play. You try to get on base. That puts pressure on the pitcher. And not only when you put pressure on the pitcher because you're on base, but you're in the playoffs. Just being in the playoffs, you're going to have pressure. So it's so much pressure on the other team when you can get on base in the playoffs that it throws everything out of whack for the other team. So the Phillies have played really smart. The Astros have been dominant. They haven't lost a game in the postseason. That series gets started tonight. I think the Astros are going to win it because I think that they're a team right now that is using the motivation of everybody not liking them, of everybody calling them a cheater. I think they're using that motivation as motivation right now to say it's me against us and our fans against everybody. We don't care. And we're going to go out here and we're going to prove to everybody that we can win it because as much as you want to say they were cheaters in the past, they're not cheating right now and they're still winning because they're damn good. So, they've been pretty much the best team all year. Definitely the best team in the AL. Pretty much the best team all year in baseball, unless you want to count the Dodgers, who they always seem to have a good record, but choke in the postseason. And this Houston team looks like it's on a mission to win, especially after they lost last year. They definitely look like they're on a mission and they're able to handle it a little bit better than last year where everybody said, oh, it's the Atlanta Braves and everybody else against the Houston Astros. Now it seems like they've gone through a year of that and they're ready now to say, you know what, we don't care how many people want us to lose. We don't care how many people call us cheater. We're going to go out there and we're going to kick everybody's ass and we're going to win a World Series. And you guys can't call us cheaters anymore, even though you probably still will. You can call us cheaters, but you have to call us the World Series champions. That's pretty much how it looks like from an outsider that's not a fan of the Astros and not really an Astro hater. So just looking objectively, it looks like the Astros, and they would be my pick to win the World Series, despite how well the Phillies have played this postseason also. But as I said, that series gets going tonight. And next week, I'll be giving an update on how that series is progressing. Moving on just to a little bit of basketball before we get into the football, which New York teams are unbelievable so far right now. But in basketball, I'm going to start off with the Knicks because the Knicks are the team that's gotten off to a good start. They're 3-1. They're scoring 123 points per game, which is like first or second in the league. So they're really playing well in terms of getting up and down the court. Despite they're not shooting threes well, they're only shooting threes at 33%. But they're top rebounding team per game in the league so far. They're averaging about 50 rebounds a game. And Brunson, their new point guard, is averaging 29 and 5. So, that that looks like it's really paying off right now. As I said for years, the New York Knicks need to have a point guard, and it looks like they finally have their point guard. Julius Randle is chipping in 29-3, and Mr. Barrett 18-6. But my guy off the bench, Obi Toppin, only playing 15 minutes a game, but he's averaging 9-4. He's shooting better than Randle right now. To me, he's playing better overall defense than Randle. I'm telling you, I've been saying it from the start. Randle is a good, solid player. He's a 20-20 guy. A 20-10 guy. He's going to get you a double-double most nights. I think he's gotten 2 out of 4 games. He's already gotten a double-double. He will be fine. He's good. But for the money that he's making, which is superstar money, for the money that he's making compared to what Obi Toppin is on a rookie contract, I think you have to find a way to trade Randle. You trade Randle. And if Toppin keeps this up, now Randle's playing about 35 minutes a game. Toppin's playing 15 minutes. And I said Randle's averaging 20-9. If you can just project 15 minutes to 30 minutes, and he keeps up at this pace, which I personally think he can. I know you always can't do that in sports, especially if you're doing like per 36 minutes and all that. You can't really, listen, guys get tired. Guys act differently when guys get in foul trouble after playing that amount of time. But I think Toppin can keep it up. So if he plays 30 minutes a game, I think he can average 18-8. And I said that before this year, that I think he can average around that amount. So now seeing him doing it, playing at 15 minutes a game and double at 18-8, and he's shooting 56%. Randle's shooting 47%. Toppin's shooting better from 3. He has a little bit more range than Randle. I just think that Toppin, if he is unleashed and allowed to play the 30 minutes per game or 35 minutes per game that Randle is, I think he can put up similar numbers. And I think he plays in a different way. I think, like I said, I think he can block shots better. He's longer. I think he's faster on the offensive end in terms of speeding up the game and running fast breaks. We know how athletic he is. I just think it's a better fit if they were to trade Randle to get a wing player and let Toppin be the power forward. But right now, they're playing well. They're 3-1. They play against the Milwaukee Bucks tonight, so that'll be a hell of a challenge because Milwaukee Bucks are always tough with Giannis coming to town. So, but on the other side of town, moving from New York City to Brooklyn, the Brooklyn Nets are a mess right now. They're 1-4. They're also shooting 32. They're shooting bad from 3. They're shooting 32% from 3. So they're shooting even worse. And it's crazy when you know about the players that are on their team, knowing they have Kevin Durant, knowing they have Kyrie. Even though they started out the year, they had the year with, start out the year hurt. You still have a Seth Curry. You still have a Joe Harris, two of the best 3-point shooters in the league, or two of the 5 best 3-point shooters in the league. They're one of the worst rebounding teams in the league. Even though if you look at their numbers individually, KD averaging 33, 4 and 4. Kyrie averaging 35 and 4. So their top 2 guys are doing what they can in terms of scoring. They can do a little bit on the other side of the ball, but they're doing what they can in terms of scoring. But I told you before the year, it was going to come down to one guy to really decide how well the Nets do this year. And it was going to be Ben Simmons, and he has been a total flop so far. Averaging 6 points, 7 assists, 6 rebounds per game, playing about 31, 33 minutes around that range. Only shooting 44%, but he's barely shooting at all. That's the problem. He just won't shoot. There was a play where I think it was last game where Kyrie drove to the lane, dished it off to Ben Simmons, who's literally about 2 feet from the rim, and he doesn't even look at the rim. He kicked it out to Durant, who made the shot, but you heard Kyrie actually yell on the court because he yelled it so loud. He was like, "Shoot it, Ben." Like, Ben just won't even look to shoot. And right now he's probably one of the worst starters on the team. You look at people like O'Neal and Claxton, they're averaging 9 points and 12 points respectively. And you have a 33-point scorer, a 30-point scorer, and then Claxton and O'Neal averaging 12 and 9 per game. And then you got Ben Simmons averaging 6 points. He's just not shooting. He has to play better. And like I said, he has to at least be aggressive. I understand if you're not going to shoot well. You got guys in the league that shoot like 35%, shoot 40%, but they shoot. And I'll give you a perfect example. You go back and look at some of the Kobe days from the Lakers. You go back and look at some of the Allen Iverson days. They shot 40%, 41% from the field, but they still were averaging about 25 points per game because they shot. You can be a volume shooter, it's no problem, but you got to be aggressive because you have to be a threat. And somebody that's 6'10 and athletic as Ben Simmons not being a threat is a complete waste of his height and size. Completely. So he has to turn it around. If he doesn't turn it around, the Nets aren't going to turn it around. So they play against the Indiana Pacers tomorrow night, a team that is on their way down and traded a lot of their good players. So we'll see if they can find a way to get back on the winning track and get back to 2-4. But we got to talk about football because the New York teams are on a roll. And even though I'm still a little bit edgy on my Tennessee Titans, they're on a roll too. All three teams have won 4 games in a row. Let's start off with the New York Giants. They got their 4th win in a row, beating Jacksonville Jaguars last week. This is the shocker, and I'm going to slay this, and I'm not going to apologize because I still don't think he's done enough to stay on the team. Daniel Jones won the NFC Offensive Player of the Week last week. Now, he won it not really because of passing. He had 202 yards passing and a touchdown, but he had 11 carries for 107 yards on the ground and a touchdown. Now, once again, I'm going to give a lot of credit to Saquon Barkley as he had 28 touches, 131 total yards for Saquon. 135 total yards. So he did his thing. But Daniel Jones, like I said, 202 yards passing, 107 yards rushing. He had a rushing touchdown. He had a passing touchdown, and he was named Offensive Player of the Week in the NFC. So Giants win again. It got a little bit sticky late as Jaguars had the ball with around a minute to go. Driving to try to win the game, but the defense stepped up again. As I told you all year, the defense has been playing well all year. So the defense stepped up again, and Giants have been proved now to another great season. It's been a great season for them as they proved to 6-1. They are 1 game behind the Philadelphia Eagles, or half a game behind the Eagles, who are 6-0. And once again, they continue to move on. They continue to play well. You can't really complain with them at all. Now they will move on next week to play at Seattle, which is the only surprise. This is the shocker of the week, is that Giants at Seattle will be the only game next week with 2 teams that are over 500. And nobody would have said that at the start of the year. So, Seattle is a team that I paid attention to. Geno Smith has played way over his head in my opinion, but he's playing well. So, you have 2 quarterbacks that are really trying to prove something. And I have to tell you, the running back for Seattle, Kenneth Walker, I think is a future beast. So that is one person the Giants really have to concentrate on. I understand Geno's been playing well, but I mean, he has a good wide receiving core with DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. DK Metcalf doesn't look like he's going to be playing this week. It'll be Marquise Goodwin. So you got to watch out for Kenneth Walker. I think Kenneth Walker, he's broken about 2 or 3 long runs this year. A couple of weeks ago, he had 140 yards or something like that. He's a really good back. He's got speed. He's got vision. And that's the offense that knows how to run the ball. So if the Giants want to win this game in Seattle, and playing in Seattle is always a tough one. If you want to win that game in Seattle, you got to be able to slow down Kenneth Walker and keep him to, I would say, under 90 yards. I think once he gets over 90, over 100, then you're pushing the game in Seattle's favor, because that's what they want to do, especially with DK Metcalf. Metcalf is out. So you got to try to slow it down a little bit and slow down Kenneth Walker. So that'll be the biggest thing, which will be tough for the Giants because the Giants have not had a great run defense so far this year. They started out good, obviously, when they played against the Titans, but they've been edging a little bit down each week. So they got to find. ETN ripped them apart. He had over 100 yards last week. And if they play against Kenneth Walker the way they had against ETN last week, he's going to have about 120 and 2 touchdowns. So Giants have to play better against stopping the run this week as they travel to Seattle. The New York Jets, they won against a Broncos team that played without Russell Wilson. They played against Ripon. Ripon played bad, but more importantly, the Jets played well. Sauce Gardner won the defensive AFC Player of the Week for the Jets. He once again has been stepping up and been playing a big role. Been watching him a lot. He's been playing very good defense. He's been locking down whoever he's been going against. And this week, they're going to face against a tough team in the Patriots. a team that didn't play well on Monday night, so I'm sure they're going to really want to get their paybacks. Last week with the Jets, Wilson had another below average game, 121 yards passing. Now, the game started out great for Breece Hall, 4 carries, 72 yards and a touchdown, as he was about to have another monster game, probably another game of 150. However, the worst news could happen for the Jets happened. Their star player, Breece Hall, torn ACL. He will be gone for the year. Michael Carter will have to step up, but also they made a trade to get James Robinson from the Jacksonville Jaguars. So, Mr. Robinson and Mr. Carter will be now splitting backfield duties for the Jets. But that's a huge loss because I've been hyping up Breece Hall all year, talking about how good he is, talking about how good I think he could be. And I thought him and Kenneth Walker were the two leading candidates to be like the MVP candidates MVP for rookie, rookie of the year candidates. But with him getting hurt now, it's a huge blow to the Jets. They're going to have to find some way to continue. I mean, Michael Carter or Robinson are not as explosive as Breece Hall, but they're not bad. They can still continue to get this running game going. But another thing happened. Corey Davis, he will be out. So Corey Davis is going to miss this game as he hurt himself last week. Breece Hall is done for the year. So two very important cogs into that offense really went down last week. Garrett Wilson's going to have to step up and be big, much bigger, much faster than we thought. And two guys that had asked for trades previously, and Mr. Moore and Mr. Mims are now both going to have to step up and be the number 2 and probably the number 4 wide receiver, because I'm assuming Berrios is probably going to be the number 3. But they're both going to have to step up and play now. First of all, I think it's ridiculous for them to ask for trades when you're on a winning team. Like, that's not showing a winning mentality, that you rather be more involved in the offense to be on a winning team. I just don't understand that. But hopefully somebody has talked into the young men's ears and they will come back out this week and play more team ball, because you can't have that type of individualism when you want to win. You can't have people going for numbers, going for stats. You got to have everybody on the same page. So Moore and Mims are going to have to step up and be part of the team this week as they play against the Patriots, who were Mac Jones will be back starting this week, but they're a mess right now. The old saying is, if you have 2 quarterbacks, you have no quarterbacks. It's pretty damn close to having no quarterbacks for the Patriots right now. Mac Jones is going to have to establish himself as the number 1 again. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not the biggest Mac Jones fan. I said that when he was drafted, and I don't think he played great last year. I think he was hidden by how much they ran the ball. But he's got to establish himself. Right now, it's not a good situation for the Patriots, and this could fall pretty fast for them if they lose to the Jets this week. Now, moving on to the Tennessee Titans. The Titans were able to beat the Colts for the second time in 4 weeks, with a bye week somewhere in between there. So, Derrick Henry had his 3rd straight game of 100 yards, as he is now getting back up, revving to what he was previously before the injury. He had 30 carries for 128 yards. The big thing is Ryan Tannehill didn't play great. The offense didn't score offensive touchdown. Defense actually scored a defensive touchdown. So defense actually outscored the offense during this game. The offensive team did not score any touchdowns. Ryan Tannehill only had 132 yards passing. Listen, he got hurt during the game. He hurt his ankle, and it looks like he will start. He won't be 100%, obviously. You're hoping it's a regular sprain and not a high ankle sprain, because if they're trying to hide a high ankle sprain, then you'll be seeing Malik Willis out there starting. But I think it's a regular sprain, or at least maybe a grade 2. So we'll see. I expect to see Ryan Tannehill out there, but keep an eye on it for fantasy purposes. Right now, it's just their offense is just hanging in there. They're just trying not to lose the ball, because the defense is playing their ass off. The defense is playing for the second straight year like a championship defense. This is the type of defense you want to be on this is your defensive playoffs. This is a championship defensive playoff team, but the offense can't score. And it goes all the way back, and I'm going to keep repeating myself from what I said at the start of the year before the year started. The defense is fine. Every single person on this defense is fine when they're healthy. Mona's going to be coming back at cornerback. That slides everybody into a regular spot. Fairley gets to be the number 4. Terrence Mitchell gets to be a 5. So everybody slides in the spot at cornerback. The linebackers are playing well. D-line, even without Harold Landry, is playing well because Weaver is playing well. So the D-line is still playing well. It's the only biggest issue is the offense, the left tackle, the left guard. Having a number 1 wide receiver because people can't win their one-on-one matchups. And I keep telling people how easy it is, and people underestimate how important a number 1 wide receiver is, because as it stands right now, you got the other team's best corner guarding Robert Woods. You got their second best corner playing against Nick Westbrook-Ikhine. I mean, that's just horrible just to say that he's your number 2 wide receiver right now. In a perfect world, he's the number 5 wide receiver, if not the number 6. There's no way that he should be a number 2 wide receiver. Even when Treylon Burks comes back, he's still a number 3 wide receiver. He has to be moved down, and he can't move down unless you get somebody better. You have to get a number 1 wide receiver. The number 1 wide receiver draws the attention, so now Robert Woods is a number 2, is playing with less attention, going against the second best cornerback. And then when Treylon Burks comes back, he has that high ceiling, and he's going against the third best cornerback on the team. That should be a matchup you should be able to take advantage of. But even if he has to be a starter and he's going against the number 2 corner, now he's a rookie. He's going against an experienced number 2 cornerback. Things could get a little shaky. Things move into place when you get people that should be in their right spots. You get a number 1 wide receiver. Woods moves down to 2. Treylon Burks will be the 3 when he comes back. You can fight between Westbrook-Ikhine and also Phillips for the number 4. Or when McMath comes back, he could be the speed wide receiver at number 4, and you can move them down. Things fall into place when you get a number 1 wide receiver. The Titans don't have a number 1 wide receiver without A.J. Brown. And when you add that to the fact that the offensive line isn't great right now, listen, you got to try Dylan Raylands at left tackle, or just admit it was a mistake. You got to. Right now, Daly is not a good left tackle. He's been proving it over the past couple of weeks. Just leave Raylands there for 2 games. 2 games you can decide. And really 1 game because the trade deadline's coming up. And I think if the Titans really want to be taken seriously, you got Andre Dillard from the Philadelphia Eagles you could trade for. You got Isaiah Wynn from the New England Patriots you could trade for. Both of those guys haven't played really this year. And when they have played this year, Wynn at right tackle, that's not his natural position. His position is left tackle. At left tackle the past couple of years, he's actually been pretty solid. At right tackle, he's not playing well. And there is a big difference between playing left tackle and right tackle. Andre Dillard, not playing this year. Last year was solid at left tackle. So you got 2 guys that are solid at left tackle. Both of them are young. They're like 26, 27 years old. So both of them are young. And you put them at left tackle, you figure it out with guard. Because if you do have 4 solid positions, the 1 position can be made up for. But when you have 2 positions that are both weak, it shows up. And the Titans got to take care of that. So if I'm the Titans, you trade for either Dillard, you trade for either Wynn. Neither one is going to cost a lot in terms of draft capital. You already let Kadarius Toney go. You still got to get a number 1 wide receiver. I still think you should be able to give up a first to get DJ Moore. If you don't want to give up a first, you should be able to give up a second and other picks. But you got to get people in there, or you're just lying to your fans. You're not giving them a chance to bring back the excitement. They bring excitement because they're fans, but they're not bringing the same excitement because they know they can't win. They saw it last year. You had a better offense. You had the same defense last year. You had a better offense, and you sucked in the first playoff game and lost to a team that has no offensive linemen. And if you want to, and for all the fans that want to talk about, you got to fix the offensive line first. You can't win without having an offensive line. I point exactly to the team that beat you last year. The Cincinnati Bengals had arguably the worst offensive line in football, and they made it to the Super Bowl. Why? Because they have offensive weapons. They have a star wide receiver in Jamar Chase. They have a really good number 2 wide receiver in Higgins. They have a good number 3 wide receiver in Boyd. They have a good running back in Mixon. They have those pieces. The Titans can do the same thing. If you have a number 1 wide receiver and Robert Woods and Treylon Burks and Derrick Henry, you have enough pieces, but you have to get that guy. And that's why I think that you try to get the left tackle, whether it's Win or Dillard, and you have to try to get that top wide receiver. And this offense will look completely different. I remember at the start of the year, I said that it was having problems scoring 21 points. That can move you up around a touchdown a game, at least 4 points per game, because it'll turn a field goal into a touchdown. That'll move you up 3-4 points per game, just getting that one wide receiver to move everybody into place. That's something the Titans got to do if they really want to show their fans that they're serious about trying to win this year. But with that said, we got all this stuff going on this week. Like I said, you got the World Series starting tonight, Philadelphia Phillies against the Houston Astros. You have football this weekend. You got the New York Giants going against Seattle. You got the New York Jets going against the Patriots. And you got the Tennessee Titans who will be facing the Houston Texans as big division rivalry games with two of those three teams. And as I said, Giants and Seattle, only game this week with both teams over 500. With this show, we'll be saying goodbye to not only the Yankee season, but baseball season, as we'll just mention about the World Series next week. But all our local teams are done. We'll talk more about basketball next week, more about the Nets and more about the Knicks. We'll see if we can sneak into maybe a little bit New York Rangers hockey, as they're off to a 3-3-2 start, but they've lost 4 in a row, 2 of those games in overtime or even with a shootout. So a lot of stuff to talk about. We also have a little bit of boxing this week. Lomachenko gets back in the ring, similar to what Deontay Wilder did last week. Should be a good fight. He should win it in under 10. That's my prediction for that. We'll see what happens. And obviously, we'll talk a little bit about fights that aren't going to happen, like Spence and Crawford, Tank and King Rye. Lots to always talk about in sports. I'm your host, Peter Pac-Man Clark, the Sports God. And this is Pac Sports Zone. Catch you guys later.